No, I haven't. Touch wood. No. I did, when I was working on a series of wild food with a wonderful professor of archaeobotany, a very dear friend. He had a theory about one particular poisonous plant, that if we cooked it in a certain way, we'd get rid of all the toxins. And so we tried it, and I cooked it the way he suggested, and then we're tasting it. And I said to him, so Gordon, why is it that, are you certain about this method? And he said, well, no, but theoretically it should work. So I said, so why is my mouth swelling up? Well, it's true. He was a lovely man to work with. He poisoned himself once. He was working at a university in Wales, and he had an agreement with the mycologists in the mycology section, for the lab technician to keep for him all the edible mushrooms at the end of their days collecting and teaching, and set them aside for him. What he didn't know was they were also doing the same with hallucinogenic mushrooms for somebody else, and they got the baskets muddled up. So he went home with what he thought were wonderful edible mushrooms, and merrily tucked into them, fried in an omelette, and then went for a beer down in the local pub when his whole world became monochrome. Not black and white, but blue and white. But before he passed out, he had the good sense to figure out what the mushroom was, to write his name on a post-it note. And he could literally write, I have eaten, and then he wrote the Latin name, stuck it on his chest and collapsed. I'd love to see the paramedic's face. What is the best tasting bug? Dave, that's some question, I don't know. Well, my favourite bug is the witchetty grub. Okay. They're delicious. Look, you're the experts on fish and chips. Let me tell you, if you deep fry them in batter, you'd love them. Now, what is the worst thing you've ever eaten? Brussels sprouts. What type of camera do you use? I'm using a Nikon D800E. David, when did you first consider yourself an expert in survival? I don't. I'm still a student. I'm still learning. And I don't think you ever stop learning. Harriet, my dad used to tease me that you always carry a Mars bar. Do you carry an essential food, stroke snacks? No. Actually, I find them a little too sweet, to be honest. Somebody wants to get into this is Jake, wants to start studying fungi. He's read books on the subject, but doesn't trust himself to go out alone. Very wise. You need to go on a course if you want to learn about fungi, otherwise you'll end up like Gordon did. And it takes a long while. You need to go and find a course that's local to you, that's the important thing, and go slowly. If you try to teach yourself from a book, it's very difficult because scent and taste are important in the identification of fungi, and that's a very individual thing. What you need to be able to do is to go out with a field guide, a good field guide, and somebody who knows, and they'll say, well, this one tastes like cinnamon, this one tastes like coconut, this one smells like an old mechanic's garage. Very subtle descriptions. Then you can smell it, and you know it's the one you're looking at in the book, and you then relate your experience of the smell to what's in the guide. So that's very important. So go and do it. You have to find a course. Okay. This is someone talking about the canoe. He says it looks like a shed. How does it handle? Compared to a modern canoe, birch bark canoes are they're slower in the water because the bark is not so smooth. But in terms of shape, you can shape these canoes into whatever shape you want. High rocker, high tumble home, and there are very special ways of achieving that. They're very subtle. All of the shapes that we know of canoeing today were originally made in birch bark. To my mind, the best canoe to paddle is the best hybrid of this technology, modern technology, which is a cedar canvas canoe, because then you get a really lovely shape and a smooth outer hull. But I haven't yet found any synthetic boat that can manoeuvre as well. There are very fast synthetic boats, but the birch bark canoe, if you paddle one, you'd be really surprised at how well they handle. And they're great in white water. Somebody's recently started fly fishing. Where is the nicest place I've ever fished? New Zealand. They have the best fishing in the world. It's absolutely stunning. Crystal clear water and very large trout that our colonial ancestors had great wisdom to introduce there. Not sure how wise that was really, but it was good for fishing. Someone saw me in the audience of Strictly Come Dancing. Hope you're not going to start dancing. Indeed. This is a landscape that has hardly changed through the history of humankind. Here you see Bushman painters because of the big bottoms there that they have, very characteristic. And here, if you look closely, you can see the same again, and the characteristic hunting bag of the Bushman and the little bows. The little bows tell you they're using poison arrows because that bow would not be powerful enough to kill the kudu without poison. And look how beautifully painted the kudu is. To me, it's vibrant, it's full of life. I feel the spirit of the animal. I sense the keen observation of the artist. When I say artist, an art critic once told me that rock art isn't art, it's pre-art. What a lot of rubbish. Have you heard of anything more ridiculous? It's lovely, and it moves me as much as the Haywain or a Turner. It talks to me, and look at their canvas. They even use the fold in the rock to give the crease in the hind leg of the animal. They were artists. And in their hunting, they used one particular skill to a very high degree, the skill of tracking. This is the track of a Kalahari Bushman, just like ours. And I thought we'd have a look at some tracking skills tonight and just introduce you to some of the basic concepts. One animal that's that big with a cloven hoof. If I point it out to you, you can see here the shape. And this is a giraffe. Giraffe's track. But the question I would be asking you in the bush is it a front foot or a rear foot? The drawings that I superimposed, by the way, are not drawn from the photographs. I drew these drawings freehand, and it's interesting how well they fit the tracks. Because when you start to track animals, you get a very keen sense of shape and form. This is a rear foot, and I can explain how you can tell the difference. On the left is the rear foot. It's slightly smaller than the front foot, and it's more elongated to the front. And there is the front foot, which is a heavier foot altogether. And why is this the case? Well, take a look at the animal. The rear legs support the rear quarters and half of the midriff. The front foot supports half of the midriff, the front and the head, so it's got more weight to carry. So the front feet, very often in quadrupeds, are slightly larger than the rear foot. Not always, but mostly. Take that piece of knowledge and carry it with you as we now look at some other tracks. So here we've got a fairly round track. It has 4 toes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it has a big rear pad which has got 3 distinct lobes. Do you see the 3 lobes? 1, 2, 3. If I put a drawing of a similar track on top, you get the idea of what you're looking at. And the size of this is what? 11 centimetres long. That's a very big track for this animal. This is a cat. The 3 lobes tell you it's a cat. Its size and the roundness tell you, with that big pad at the back, tell you it's a leopard. And at 11 centimetres, it has to be a male. It would be a huge female otherwise. And here you look at the leopard's tracks. So, the rear foot on the left is slightly smaller than the front foot. You understand why. But there's a little bit more to the difference in their shape. Look at the rear foot, and it looks more elongated, more athletic than the track on the right. What I would say is that this is an ambush hunter. It needs to be able to generate speed over a short distance, and it needs power. So the rear foot is rather like wearing a running shoe on the rear foot and having a boxing glove on the front foot. That's your leopard. Perfectly well adapted for a short sprint and a pounce. Such an innocent looking animal. Do you know a leopard can carry a person my size up into a tree? That's how powerful they are. Incredibly powerful animals. And they carry their prey up into trees because they're easily displaced from it by hyenas or lions. It's much safer. They can put their prey in a tree. Other things can't get at it. And this is a leopard that is less than just under 2 years old. And you can see here his boxing gloves on his front feet. Wonderful creatures. So, taking all the knowledge you've now got, let's have a look at this. What have we got here? Well, we've got another track with 4 toes and a big pad at the back with 3 lobes. So you should be saying cat. And this track also has claws showing. Can you see the claw marks? Just up here, and here, and here. Claw marks, and it's very elongated. Remember the rear foot of the leopard was elongated? This is the rear foot of a cheetah. And the elongation tells you of its speed. Here are the tracks. The rear foot, really fast running shoe. That looks to me like the sort of shoe that a sprinter who's coming out of the blocks at the Olympics would have. Have you seen a sprinter shoe? It's almost a skeletal sole, it's not a heavy trainer. And they have studs, don't they? They're spikes. It's exactly what the cheetah has. But the front foot has also got to have speed, but can still pounce. Can knock the legs out of something that it's chasing. So the energy, the very spirit of the animal, is reflected in the way it leaves tracks in the ground. And that's what we try to do when we're tracking, is to pick up that spirit of the thing we're following. Try this one. Oh, sorry, there you go. Beautiful. Always look like they're crying, don't they? Stunning animal. Try this one. So, you know you've got 3 lobes in the rear pad, so you know it's a cat. But now I want you to think about what's the nature of the track. Is it a fast thing or is it a powerful thing? And you can see it's quite squat. And it's deep, it's a deep impression, it's a heavy animal. This is the track of a lion. I haven't put any size on there because you just don't need it, it's so obvious. You see, this is an animal that works cooperatively in its hunting. It doesn't have to have that same skill of the cheetah or the leopard. It works together, but it does need to be powerful. These are animals so powerful they can leap onto the back of an elephant and topple it. Once the elephant is on its side, it's all over. The king of the jungle really is the king of the beasts. And I get really irritated when I watch documentaries on television where they tell you that lions are lazy. They are not. If you were to take a film of any of us at 3 o'clock in the morning, you might say the same thing. But if you film a lion at night, you discover it's nocturnal. And remember that a lion is 4 times more dangerous in the dark than in daylight. And it would love to eat you and crunch your bones. Stunning creatures. So let's have a look at a different animal altogether, completely different shape. A big animal with a wide foot. There, this is more difficult to see, I think. It's less, you're not used to it. You're used to a cat's track because you see pussycat's tracks, we see dog tracks. This is a rhino. You of course realise that. And here you've got the 3 toes of a rhino's track, and the side toes are very crowded up to the front toe. That tells you that it's a white rhino. There used to be lots of species of rhino on our planet. Today there are 5 species of rhino. The Indian rhino, the Javanese rhino, the Sumatran rhino, the white rhino, and the black rhino. They're staggering creatures. I really like them. You can see the toes there on the foot. This is the white rhino. It gets the name white because of its wide mouth. It's a grazing rhino, and it's the most docile, if you can say docile, of the 2 African species. 2 of them together there. In fact, this particular morning I saw 6 white rhino at this waterhole in a game reserve where they are carefully looked after. And I decided to take 20 minutes to just watch those 6 rhino at a particular day at dawn, because the thought was in my mind that in my lifetime I may never see that many rhinos standing side by side again. Because since the year 2007, the poaching of rhino has increased by 5,000%. 5,000%. It's staggering. In this picture there are 3 rhino, but actually there's a 4th that's hiding. It's being protected, as a calf, being protected by the adults. And here you can just see the calf's head. And like soldiers jumping out of a helicopter, they've taken up an all-round defensive position. Fascinating behaviour. Stunning animal. Last year, in southern Africa, 448 rhinos were poached, killed illegally and maliciously. Staggering, isn't it? 448. So if you do the sums, in less than 20 years, you won't be able to see this animal. You won't be able to go and track it at all, or show your grandchildren. Some people say that extinctions are a natural process of evolution. They are. There's no question of that. But I don't think that the extinction of creatures like this, because of human stupidity, counts. To me, that's a crime against nature. It's something we should take an interest in. Let's have a look at this track